Good morning. It's the second day of Lent, Thursday the 23rd of February, and it's time for our second daily Lent devotion. This morning it's coming from John's Gospel chapter 12 verses 1 to 11, and it's the story of Jesus being anointed whilst at the house of Lazarus, Mary and Martha. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus arrived at Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honour. Martha served while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. "Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages." He didn't say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. "Leave her alone," Jesus replied. "It was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me." Meanwhile, a large crowd of Jews found out that Jesus was there and came not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to kill Lazarus as well, for on account of him, many of the Jews were going over to Jesus and putting their faith in him. Amen. May God bless to us this reading from his holy word. Those words that Jesus said, "You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me," is a reminder of making sure that we get our priorities straight. Jesus isn't saying that we should not prioritise the poor, that we should not look after the poor, and indeed that the poor being with us all the time is a good thing. What he's saying is that the priority for us should always be to glorify Christ, to glorify God. That, as Christians, is our first priority, is always making sure that the glory and honour is given to him. And then, his line about the poor always being with you, some people make that sound like it's almost a callous thing to say. But far from it, it's actually an allusion to Deuteronomy 15, verse 11. "There will always be poor people in the land. Therefore I command you to be open-handed towards your brothers and towards the poor and needy in your land." It is a reminder that when he is gone, when he is no longer walking the earth, as we are in that situation now, that we must be generous. We must be open in our giving to our brothers and sisters, to the poor and needy in our land. Sometimes you hear that argument, "I don't want my money going to," when we're talking about taxation, particularly in terms of things like welfare or certain public services that come out. We need to be open about where our money does go to. We need to be generous and happy to give to people who are in some ways less fortunate than we may be. If it turns out that we are the people who are in need, who don't have much, we need to be willing to accept help when it's being offered. Because if it's being offered in the right spirit, in a spirit of love, then it's there to try and help. But for those of us who are able to give, those of us who aren't in a position of being in poverty at this particular moment in time, we must remember those words of Jesus, that we will always have the poor with us, and remember in Deuteronomy what that actually means, being open with our giving, being generous with our giving, helping the poor and needy wherever we possibly can, because it's in doing that that we do glorify God. It's in doing that that we actually get our priorities right. What we read in this particular section is that reminder to us that our works on this earth, if done in the right spirit, if done because of our love for others and because of our love for Christ, are what we are being called to do. They are what Jesus is directing us to do. So remember that. Be open, be generous, and help whomever, whenever you possibly can do. That's enough for today. I will see you with tomorrow's one.